This is SIG P365 380 with Holosun 507K First Range Report. Now, we have previously done a first range report as well as numerous other videos with the P365 380. This is a brand new firearm that the crew purchased. They enjoyed mine so much that they wanted one, and I convinced them that they should also put the Holosun on it so we could try that and do another first range report video. So here we go. Let's hit the range. Even with the fantastic weather this morning, the access road to Banner shooting range is still flooded, so we took a trip down to Butch Olafson shooting range to check it out, and am I glad we did. They have a fantastic 12 bay 30-yard rifle handgun setup. They also have an 11 bay 50-yard rifle setup and an 11 bay rifle setup that has options to go out to 100 yards. Really great facilities here. Also have indoor bathrooms, a classroom you can rent if you want to do classes or a family function. Amazing facility. Someone's put a lot of money into it. And I didn't even mention the archery range, the 3D archery range, all the shotgun, skeet, all amazing facilities. Check it out if you haven't already.
Cold on the 100, cold on the 100.
That's it.
What does that mean?
That means the 100-yard range, which is over there. So what? This is your case. That's a casing, right?
Okay.
That's what's left of the bullet.
If you watched our original P365 380 first range report, a lot of this information is going to sound repetitive for this current section, but we're going to repeat it for our new viewers. The P365 380 is 5.8 inches long, 4.2 inches high, 1 inch wide, and weighs in at 15.7 ounces. It has a 3.1 inch carbon steel barrel. The slide is made of stainless steel and is finished in their nitron finish. It has a polymer grip that includes the SIG rail, and it also comes with the SIG Light night sights. SIG markets the pistol saying that it's a softer shooting, easier handling firearm that has the same grip module and fire control unit as the 9mm versions, and is for those with smaller hands and those who find the manipulation and recoil of 9mm challenging. I tend to agree with them on that last part. A really nice feature of the 365 380 is that it comes optics ready and has the Romeo 0 floor plate. The firearm we're shooting today has the Holosun 507K mounted to it, mounted in less than 5 minutes using the included screws, and sighted in using a bore sight in less than 30 seconds. Was incredibly easy to do. One appeal of the Holosun 507K is that it has the dot inside a circle reticle that, for me at least, is extremely clear to see. It mounts securely to the firearm using the included screws, and I think it has a fairly clean look. It doesn't really look out of place. It holds zero very well, which I think is very important on something like an optic like this. And as I said before, it's for someone like me who has astigmatism, for whatever reason, the clarity on this one is amazing compared to some other similar priced optics. Now let's hit the range for a little more range time, and I'll point out that usually we start with the first magazine through the gun in a first range report. However, we didn't in this video, and I'm going to show you that first magazine now, and you're quickly going to see why we didn't lead with that in this video. And a failure. Let's try again. And a failure. Let's hope this Fiocchi ammo cleans up, because if not, we're in for a bad day. That's all I got. Alright, here we go. And a failure. This is not a good sign. Definitely not a good sign. This is not good at all. get it to cycle. That was terrible. That was by far the worst magazine ever through a SIG. Let's try this. We have a magazine loaded with some Sierra Outdoor Master. Let's give that a try. See if we get the same issue. Okay, same left-hand target again. Okay, that functioned just fine. Okay. Initial reaction for some people would be like, oh my god, this gun is a lemon, or oh my god, this ammo is terrible, what the hell is going on, I wasted money, whatever. Now, I will say this type of experience from the first magazine is unusual for something like a SIG. It's one that I've not experienced before, but I have experienced it before with other manufacturers, not in particular, but just every once in a while you get one that does actually need to go through the break-in period, we'll say. Now, in case you're wondering, we did test the ammo and the magazines through my other P365 380 to confirm that they were working or if they were problematic or whatever. Seeing the magazines and the ammo function normally in a different firearm led me to believe that they are probably not the source of the problem here. Failure right off the bat. That's like a double feed with a... Let's do another one. We're gonna drop the mag. Let's see if it ejects. Okay. Alright, I'm going to do another mag of this Sierra Outdoor Master. Here we go. Let's see how this does again with a different ammo.
Yeah, they're showing nice right now. I figured that was the laser.
Okay, so it works just fine with non-Fiocchi ammo. Let's go back to the Fiocchi and confirm.
It's for those people that need it. The diet sucks. I'm eating rabbit food.
Okay, well, that's a good sign. Let's do another magazine.
Going cold on the 100. Cold on the 100.
Okay, that's not us. Okay, well that's good. 2 in a row. Let's go for 3 in a row. Our experience with the P365 380 with the Holosun 507K attached today, I think illustrates at least a few different points that while they are not common, they are not completely uncommon either. As you saw, right off the bat with the Fiocchi target ammo, we had problems. It was very problematic. We couldn't even get through the first magazine without a problem every other round. It was outright terrible. Is that a bad firearm, a bad ammunition, something else? I think it's actually a combination of the firearm being broken and illustrating the importance of making sure the ammo you choose works in your firearm. You may have noticed after the second magazine of the Sierra Outdoor Master that from that point on, we had no problems with either ammo that we put through this gun after that point. I suspect there was a burr or a rough spot or something that needed to be ironed out, and that maybe that Fiocchi ammo generates pressure on the lower end, I'm going to suspect, to where it just wasn't able to, with whatever burr or whatever it was there, wasn't able to muscle through it all the time. That with the Sierra Outdoor Master, after a couple magazines of that, iron that out, boom. At least let's hope that's what happened. Now I say let's hope because I don't think that the 100 or so rounds I put through it after that without issue are near enough to call it without fail, and we certainly had plenty of issues before that point to be comfortable after one day with it. As I said earlier, most of the time when we purchase a new firearm, we take it out of the box, we go to the range, we fire our first magazine through it. The vast majority of the time, that's without fail. It goes without hitch. The firearm works without fail. It's perfectly serviceable. If anything, the accuracy is poor. That's on me, the shooter, not on the firearm. In this case, we had a lot of failures, and I don't think that was on me, the shooter, for any of them. And as I said, I don't think that's bad firearm or a lemon or bad ammo. I just think it's a case that, again, illustrates the importance of making sure you break in your firearm, that you're comfortable with it, you're competent with it, and that you know what ammo works with it before you actually need to rely on it. Now let's hit the range again, this time on the steel targets, where I think we can see the value of having, say, a Holosun or a similar micro red dot sight over just an iron sights. We're going to shoot the P365 380 with iron sights against the P365 380 with the Holosun against the same steel targets and see if we can notice any difference.
Right down in there like that. Pull this back. Push this little pin forward. It's now loaded. Okay? It's
We're going to take a break from the footage to talk about an issue we had at this point that represents something that could happen in real life. In firing this Fiocchi ammo, I don't know what it was today, but we were getting a lot of ash after firing around, and in some cases I would get pieces that were between a 0.5 millimeter to a millimeter square that were landing on me, and you see me brush those off at certain points. As it happens, at this point in the video, one of those pieces of ash actually landed over where the Holosun projects the reticle onto the lens. As a result, I thought my Holosun had broken at this point. I spent a few minutes troubleshooting. I'm like, well, it's broken. We're just going to act like it's real life, and we're going to try to go with the iron sights. Speaking of which, let's talk about the iron sights at this point. Compared to the 365 XL, which both come with SIG night sights, you'll notice the sights on the 365 380 have a slightly different angle on the face of the sight versus the night sights that come on the XL version in 9mm. Here you can see the 9mm over the top of the 380 version. You have a more 90-degree flat face on that. While I would prefer suppressor sight height sights on here, with the stock sights, here you can see what my sight picture looks like with iron sights using the XL frame and the XL flat face sights. Here's the same thing on my 365 380 with its iron sights. Here you can see even less of the sight. Some would say, depending on the angle, you get none of the front sight. Now I decided to continue shooting and might as well test the iron sights with this real life failure. And you'll see in this next clip that my first round misses, and then actually that recoil dislodges the ash piece, which you don't see, but then from then out I can then use the Holosun back to as normal, which was back to being cool. Yeah, cool, right?
You doing all right? Okay. I'm just making sure you're all right, buddy. Little hot. Empty. You go. Look, I want to show you. You pull this back.
When comparing the P365 380 versus the P365 380 with Holosun attached, there are some minor but potentially big differences between the two setups. Now the most obvious of those differences are the sights between them. With the Holosun or something like it, a micro red dot, you have the floating reticle red dot that's easy to pick up, easy to see. It works well, and there's a lot of advantages to it. I think, in my non-expert opinion, watching the footage, you can see that going from one target to the next, even on my first day shooting the setup on the 365, I was quicker with the Holosun than I was with the iron sights, and I think there can be a lot of value to that to a lot of people, especially a competition shooter. Now on the flip side, one area that might impact some people is in carryability. With the Holosun or another micro red dot attached, you do lose some concealability. You can't quite fit that in as many pockets as you would before. Depending on your build, your preferred carry method, maybe you can't conceal carry that the same way with the micro red dot like you can without. And another thing to consider is your preferred carry method. I mentioned in our 1,000 round review of the 365 that between that and the XL version, for me personally, I can conceal carry both in the same fashion. Both holsters work the same for me. Now that was in regard to my preferred carry method of a pocket holster, which I don't pocket holster my 365 XL, so I wouldn't have thought to test this. But as it were, it turns out the pocket holster for my 365, while it still technically, quote, works with the 365 with the Holosun attached, it doesn't work nearly as well, to the point where I would go as far as saying it's not a serviceable pocket holster at all for that setup. Which for some people means if they're going to pocket holster this setup and they previously pocket holster carried it without micro red dot, they're going to need to buy another holster than what they previously used as well. I know I'm going to need to. Another question to ask, and it's certainly outstanding after today, is does the addition of the micro red dot make the firearm less reliable? And I think we're at the point where we can say potentially, but we don't know. My not an expert opinion is that the failures we saw today are a result of the firearm needing broken in, and not that its setup overall is bad, but who knows, I could be wrong. I've certainly been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again. I'm human. Now here's one area where I do have a serious concern on the micro red dot mounted to my P365 380 that I have not noticed on my other firearms with the micro red dot attached. Let's see that again in slow motion in case you didn't catch what I did. Besides the potential impact to reliability, the one area where I have serious concerns after my first range trip with this setup is how is my micro red dot going to hold up after hundreds and thousands of rounds? As you saw in that slow-mo, at times the brass is deflecting off the micro red dot when it's being ejected. On my Holosun that is attached to my 365 XL in 9mm that has over 1,500 rounds through it at this point, you can see little to no evidence of brass deflecting off the face of the sight. When we compare that against the Holosun attached to the 365 380, after only 250 rounds, we can see clear evidence in multiple places of brass deflecting off the face of the sight. Now, while this isn't something like 223, on my 223 Battle Flag AR pistol, the brass deflecting off the brass deflector is chipping through the Cerakote to where it's through two different layers of Cerakote on that already. So I do wonder what brass deflecting off of both the body of the Holosun as well as potentially the glass is going to do to the long-term lifespan of this sight. I'm going to put hundreds and thousands of rounds through it some months, and it's going to need to hold up. One of the things I do wonder after my first range session with the firearm is if the reason we see the sight cut further back on the 9mm version of the firearm compared to the 380 version is because of the brass deflecting off of the micro red dot sight. I wonder if that was worse on the 9mm version, and it was shifted back as a way to help prolong the lifespan of the micro red dot sight attached to the firearm. Now that's just my from the gut theory after my first day shooting it. I have no idea if that's correct, but I'd be curious to hear what other people have to say in that regard and if they have experienced the same thing on either of their 365 setups. I knew the sight would be more forward on the 380 version compared to my 9mm version, but I didn't really appreciate how much more forward that was on the slide comparatively. But that's just me. Another area where I need to start looking for an upgrade in terms of my micro red dot sight setup is brightness adjustment, in terms of auto adjusting brightness. I didn't have an appreciation for that until shooting in setups where things like shadows and brightness changes in your ambient lighting really come into play. And you can go from moving just 3 lanes right or the left, 1 lane to the right or the left even, and you can go from seeing your red dot sight no problem to 0 visibility on your red dot. And a lot of it comes down to just the brightness that you have it set up versus the ambient lighting of where you're at. Now indoors or in a lower light setting, I find that you need a less brightness on the reticle compared to when I'm outdoors or in a high bright ambient light setting. And so far I have not found a good setting that's sort of like a happy medium between the two. I can either be at a good brightness for indoors or good brightness for outdoors, but not a good brightness that works in either one. And I think a lot of that has to do with if I had something that auto-adjusted brightness to a certain level, it could actually find that happy place for all of them. And that's probably down to, again, budget. I'm buying one that's in my budget range that I can see, and it probably lacks that auto-adjusting brightness feature that's a step up in price. Now where that comes into play is, with this being a concealed carry personal protection home defense gun, if I have a micro red dot sight on it and I can't see it most of the time because the ambient lighting isn't matched up with where the sight is, well, that's going to be a problem. And I don't know any bad guys that are going to let me say, whoa, 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 let me adjust my brightness real quick so we can make this a fair fight. That's not going to happen. So one of the things I think we learned after a day like today where a tiny speck of ash can render your sight useless, or moving 3 feet one direction or the next can render your sight useless, is that while we really like a lot of features on this Holosun, maybe there's some other features that we need that make it not ideal for us. And so we're going to have to continue our pursuit into finding the red dot sight that lines up with our desired feature set. As that pertains to the 365 380, that means we're probably going to be testing more sites in the future on it, and I'm definitely looking forward to that and seeing how that affects reliability, if it does at all. I hope you're looking forward to our future videos on the 365 380 with micro red dot sights as much as we are. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a good day.